So I'm here with Amy Osden, and we actually just talked about a funny story regarding her last name. Amy Osden, who is Selfish Mom. So, Amy, tell us about the funny customer service agent who butchered your last name.
Yeah, so I married into this Turkish last name that everybody mispronounces, even though I think it's pretty simple. And I was on a customer service call with somebody, and she was totally butchering it. So finally I said, you can just pronounce it Austin, like the city in Texas. And she said, oh, okay. And then we talked for a few minutes about the customer service issue. And then at the end of the call, she said, okay, thank you, Miss Dallas. It was really nice talking to you.
Amy, tell us about the origin of the name Selfish Mom.
It was kind of by accident. I was just looking for something that I thought fit me. And so I was trying snarky mom and sarcastic mom. I don't really know why I thought it had to have mom in it, but at that point I thought that it should. If I were doing it over again, I'm not sure that I would put mom in the title for various reasons. But all of those names were taken. And so I think Selfish Mom was like the 12th or 13th name that I looked up. And hallelujah, the URL was available and the Twitter name was available. So I took it, and I never anticipated anybody other than like my mom and sisters reading it. So it didn't matter to me too much what the name was. But it turned out to be incredibly appropriate for me. So even though it was accidental, I feel like it was kismet.
So, you call yourself an obnoxious introvert. Tell me about that.
You know, it's actually my friend Christy, who is Quirky Fusion on Twitter. I didn't know that I was an introvert. I just assumed that because I'm usually the loudest person in the room and I have no trouble walking into a room full of strangers, that I was an extrovert. I thought that's what it meant, that you were just comfortable around people. And she finally clued me in that I was not, that I was an introvert. And I didn't realize how much energy other people sucked away from me. And so for every time I went into a room and I was the loudest person there and seemed to be having a great time, I would need like 4 hours of alone time to recover from it. So that's why I call myself an obnoxious introvert. There's nothing quiet about me, but I need so much alone time to compensate for how much it takes out of me to be social.
One of the things that you talk about with the moniker Selfish Mom is taking time for yourself, as a mother. So, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's so important. It's essential to my sanity, and I feel like there are a lot of moms who don't get the message that it's not only okay, but it's awesome and great for your family to spend time on yourself. You know, these mothers who are like, I haven't had an hour alone since my kid was born and the kid's 6. Like, how did that happen? How did you not make a date to have lunch with friends? And then they'll say, oh, but it's so hard to get somebody to come in. You know what's hard? Going insane because you never get away from your children. I don't know what it is in my DNA, but I can spend, maybe it's the introverted thing, I don't know, but I can only spend so much time with my family before I need to go get a pedicure or go for a walk or go have lunch with a friend, and that's healthy. It's not something to be embarrassed about. It's not a failing. If you're happy, your entire family will be happier.
How did you get into blogging?
I can blame it all on my friend Sandy, Urban Mama on Twitter. She used to live in Brooklyn, and then she moved to DC and started writing for the DC Moms blog. And DC Moms blog, the people behind that were starting up a New York City Moms blog. And she knew that I was writing a little bit online, not having anything to do with parenting. I was writing about real estate. And she asked me to do it, and I said no. And she asked me to do it again, and I said no again. And finally, like the third or fourth time, I said yes. And I figured it would just be something that I did on the side, like one post every 2 weeks. But it fit me. I've always had a lot of opinions about parenting, and for some reason I like spewing my stories all over the place, and so I really took to it.
So, gradually your blog started to grow. Tell me about that.
It was really weird how it happened. Like, I would love to go back, and I don't know how differently I would do things, but if I had intended from the beginning for this to be a business, I think I definitely would have done some things differently, because it took me a while to kind of get on solid ground with the business part of it. So as things were growing and as companies were wanting to work with me and actually pay me for writing, it was a tough transition because I didn't come from the business world. I had been staying home with my kids for like 5 or 6 years, and before that I was an actress, and we're not really known for discipline and business savvy. So it was a difficult transition to get into deadlines and contracts and things like that. And I'd say it took a good 2 years there was like 2 years of growing it, 2 years of trying to transition it into a business, and then the last 2 years I finally felt comfortable running it that way and not uneasy with the goal of making money.
So tell us about your kids.
My kids are awesome. I guess every mom says that. Jake is 12 and he's in middle school, and he's a budding musician and pretty much a little clone of me. I shouldn't say little, he's taller than I am. But he's basically a clone of me in temperament, in the things that he's interested in his ability to just sit on the couch with a laptop next to me with my laptop and not say anything for 3 hours and be totally happy. And then there's Fiona, who is basically the complete opposite of me and Jake. She is a genuine extrovert. She absolutely loves being around people. She would surround herself with people 24/7 if she could. She's a little bundle of energy. She does not like to sit on the couch and do nothing. She's always up and moving, and she is the loudest child in the Western Hemisphere. Whispering for her is a shout for most of us. So being in enclosed spaces with her like a car, it's really interesting. But she is really interested in dance. She already has it all planned out. She's really great with kids, and she wants to open a dance studio when she's older. So she's got it all set.
I love the name Fiona. What a great name.
Thank you. And it's not after the movie Shrek either. I hate it when people say to me, they hear my daughter's name, and they're like, "Oh, I love that movie!" And I'm like, it's not from the movie. I did not name my daughter after a big green ogre. I'm sorry. My dad's from Ireland. It's an old Irish name, and I've just always loved it. And the fact that those movies came out around both times that I was pregnant just really sucked, because that made everybody assume that I named my daughter after a green beast.
In terms of working with brands, how do you feel about reaching out to companies?
I'm honestly not criticizing anybody else who does it. I really admire people who can just boldly and with no previous contact pitch companies. I'm not good at it. It makes me feel icky, and I think a lot of it for me, number one, I can generally afford to buy whatever I want to buy, so I don't need to go to the company in order to review something. But second of all, it plays into the insecurities I have about my writing and about what I can deliver. Because if a company comes to me and they say they want to work with me, to me that pumps me up immediately. That says that they already know my writing and like it and want to work with me. If I go to them, I feel like that really puts me on the spot. That really says, okay, I'm telling you that I can give you the moon, and if I don't give you the moon, I'm going to be really embarrassed. So I'm much more comfortable when they initiate contact.
So what do you like about living in Brooklyn?
My backyard. I really like the kids' schools. They both go to public schools in Brooklyn. I love being able to walk or bike most places. I only use my car when absolutely necessary.
What advice would you give to someone who is starting out blogging?
That's tough, depending on what their goal is. If their goal is to do it for fun, to do it for profit, to do it just to get their opinions out there, or to do it for a cause, I would probably have different advice. But the one piece of overall advice, no matter what their goal is to be yourself. Don't try to twist yourself into what you see other people doing that's working. It worked for them because they're being themselves, and you can't be them. And I see that all over the place. And it also scares me a little bit when I get to know somebody through their blog or through their Twitter account, and then I meet them in person, and there is nothing that is similar. And that just frightens me. I don't know why they would choose to put on that kind of mask and then actually go to events and meet people. Like, if you're going to do that, don't ever leave your house with it. Be anonymous.